Hi, folks. I'm at the home of Greg Harland, and he's running for mayor. He's kind enough to have me over and talk about his run for mayor of Oakland. Greg, how you doing?
Hi, how you doing?
I'm very well. You're an Oakland guy.
Yes, I am.
Tell my viewers about growing up. For example, where'd you go to high school?
I went to high school at Oakland High School.
Yeah.
I came here when I was about 7 years old. My father was a pilot on the USS Yorktown, and he got killed one night flying into Alameda Naval Air Station.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. No, it's a long time ago.
Yeah. What class of it? What high school class, by the way?
Class of 64.
Okay. You don't look that old.
Every bit of it. It's experience.
How have you seen Oakland change over the decades? And as mayor, what do you want to do to help your city?
Well, actually, from the time that I first came here, Oakland really hasn't changed a lot. Three things remain constant. There's always been high unemployment, high crime, and we've never had a fully staffed police force.
Mm-hmm.
Those are three things that I really want to change.
How do you do that?
First thing is we've got a budget that we have to deal with. The budget has to be balanced, and I believe that the majority of the problem is in police and fire compensation.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to renegotiate those contracts down to a level that's healthy and sustainable for the future. The second part would be bringing jobs to Oakland. And there, I think we have a very valuable tool in the enterprise zone.
Mm-hmm.
We've actually had the enterprise zone for almost 20 years now.
Right.
And the one thing that we've learned in that 20 years is that it doesn't work unless you want it to.
I was on staff when we first applied for it.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. That goes back to when I was an intern at the city of Oakland. That's right.
Great. Yeah.
And
You know-
Heather Hensley worked on that.
Yeah, I was with someone the other day, and we were driving through West Oakland, and I was showing them all the vacant land and the old dilapidated buildings. And we drove along Mandela Parkway, and we got to 40th Street, and I said, "Do you see that wall of business? That's the Emeryville Enterprise Zone. You're standing in the Oakland Enterprise Zone." And I think that is the key, to bringing jobs to the city. It gives us a powerful tool with incentives to bring companies here. Companies that actually wanted to come and haven't been assisted in the process. We've lost, I think, in the last 3 years, at least 5,000 jobs to companies that wanted to come here. One was a solar panel company, and I'm not sure, but I believe that was Solyndra, and that's where President Barack Obama visited last month,
Right.
down in
That's right.
Fremont.
Right.
4,000 jobs. There's a wind turbine company. There's other companies as well, but I think that's the key to it. I think we need to bring in light industry. Those are businesses that are job intense. Bringing in retail is okay, except that it kind of recycles the dollars that are already here. When we bring in industry, it brings in money from outside into the community.
Right. Right.
The other thing is we have a lot of people here that have been chronically employed for generations, and they consume a lot of the resources of the city. If we get them employed, instead of consuming the right resources, they'll be bringing money into the city.
I just
I have to edit this. So these people, instead of consuming the resources of the city, will bring money into the city. I think we'll all benefit from that. It's not just that they'll benefit from it, but the rest of the city will benefit from it. A combination of that and balancing the budget, and I want to do things that probably have been put off for decades, like I don't know if you're aware, but the average life cycle of a street is 25 to 30 years for resurfacing. Oakland right now is at an 85-year cycle.
I mean, every 85 years our streets are refurbished?
We're 85 years from being refurbished. This is from Mayor Dellum's report in the last budget. He said it would take $500 million and 20 years to get back to a normal cycle.
Wow.
These are things that we have to work on. There's also our storm drains need $221 million worth of work, according to the same report. I listened to some independent auditors that came in and talked to the city council. They said we had $35 million worth of backlog in sidewalk repair. These are things that are all being deferred because the budget is broke. And the budget is broke because we got ourselves into an arms war with the other city paying police way too much. And I don't think it was necessary, because the last time we put out applications, supposedly we had 7,000 applications per job. So why do we have to pay them at those levels?
How much are we paying them? You said this off camera. I thought it was an interesting statistic.
I believe it's a little over 72,000 as a starting pay, but they can start as high as 92,000, but that's not including the benefit package and a lot of other things. So we're roughly paying, starting out 100,000 plus, where other cities are paying $46,000 to $45,000.
Like you said, LA, is that right? Or
LA is paying, I think LA pays just a little over $45,000. New York City pays a little over $46,000. The cost of living in New York City is 59.4% higher than Oakland. So really the issue is getting those contracts renegotiated down to healthy, sustainable levels.
can you do it?
Absolutely. It's not a matter of can you do it, it has to be done. So either they're going to come to the bargaining table and bring those costs down to that level, or come up with a plan where we can maybe bring down their pay to a certain level and bring in a second tier of new officers at the right level, and eventually we'll straighten it out. But for right now, it has to be done. If they're unwilling, I think we have to consider municipal bankruptcy. And municipal bankruptcy is not like the normal type of bankruptcy you or I would go through. In normal bankruptcy, the court comes in, takes your assets, starts to liquidate them,
Right.
and pay your creditors. In municipal bankruptcy, the city's assets are never at risk. All it is the city reorganizing its debt in a way that they can handle it, and also it gives them the opportunity to dismiss their employee contracts and their retiree benefits. And at that point, you start negotiating seriously. But it's just a matter of getting the costs down to what they should be.
Now, what was your moment where you decided to run for mayor? I mean, Don McClay had his, and he said it was when Dellum said that it wasn't his job to fix the potholes, as I recall. What sparked you to run for mayor of Oakland?
I can remember the precise moment that I first thought of it. I was sitting here at the dining room table with a friend of mine. He's a fellow that lives down in West Oakland. And we were talking about Oakland, because we always talk about Oakland. And I said, I just wish I could do something for Oakland. I said, I wish I could be mayor of Oakland so I could do it. And at that point, it wasn't, I wasn't saying it in a serious way. I'm just saying it as a wish. And it just started to grow,
But how did it go from a wish to where you are now, having come from the forum and, saying that you are running to be mayor of Oakland because you couldn't win? Then you have the responsibility, right?
Right. Well,
when did you say, what happened? How did it go from a wish to a reality? Your campaign?
Well, it took a couple of weeks, and that idea kept coming back.
Okay.
I wish I could be mayor of Oakland. And I have to mention that I have the ability, because I'm retired, and also have a lot of business experience. So I felt confident to do the job. So after about 2 or 3 weeks, I brought it up to my wife, and she said,
The ultimate test.
She said, absolutely not. And so I kept bringing it up to her, and she slowly came around to where I could start to think of it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, then I started to just really dig into finding out as much as I could about the internal politics of Oakland and what was going on.
So when did she turn? Was it after a good glass of wine, a great dinner?
No, I threatened to go and throw a rock through Jerry Brown's window asking him for his endorsement. I said, well, you can't get into his house, so I figured I'd just throw a rock.
You could literally do that from here, couldn't you?
Right. I figured if I could get his endorsement, she'd go along. She said, okay, if you can get his endorsement, I'll go along. But she gave in before that. But anyway, I started thinking about it really seriously, and I had studied and studied and studied. And one night I was just sitting up reading about everything, and the more I read, the more uncomfortable I got about it.
Why?
Well, I started to read the history of Mr. Parada, and he has quite a history.
Yes.
And he's the leading candidate. And I just decided, this is...
Leading by what measure?
Well, last year he was already taking victory laps. The press was declaring him, pretty much the next mayor.
Because some polls have Quan ahead of him that I've heard.
Right. No. But I'm talking last year.
Okay.
When I'm thinking about
that. I get it.
So I looked at it and I just thought, I don't think I can get involved in this. Politics just looks like a pretty dirty game.
It is.
And so I woke my wife up. She'd gone to bed already, and I said, guess what? I'm not going to do it. And she said, oh, good. Went back to sleep. And then I went to bed and had a wonderful night's sleep. Mm-hmm. And then I woke up in the morning, and the instant I woke up, I knew I was going to do it.
Why?
I don't know. It was just, I knew I was going to do it. It was like...
It's a dreamer.
It was like I hadn't thought about it. It was just... And I also had a plan of how to do it.
So after all that with your wife, you turned around and...
Yeah. I just...
Okay, so wait. So I got to ask you. After your wife said, great, and went back to bed, what did she say when you told her you changed your mind?
Well, my wife knows me. She knows me well. She's a wonderful woman. That's why this all works. But
nice.
But besides knowing I wanted to do it, I also had a very definite plan, and that plan was to, and I'd never thought of this before. It was just like the plan was there, was to start calling pastors in the inner city, because I felt really drawn to the inner city, and that's where the focus was for me.
Call?
I called many pastors.
J. Alfred Smith?
Called J. Alfred, never returned my call.
Why?
I don't know. I called them over and over and over again. I had a whole list, and every time I'd call them, I'd mark down when I called them, a date and a time.
Who called you back?
Well, the first one was a small church, Mount Tabor, out on, right, where the 4 policemen got killed? Well, across from Eastmont Mall.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the next one was a pastor, Charles Hopkins, down on 98th at Grace Baptist. Slowly, more and more pastors started to call me back. But I can remember the first day I called was Martin Luther King Day. And nobody was there, and nobody returned my call. And it was about a week before, maybe 2 weeks before I actually got through and talked to someone. But Pastor Hopkins, I saw the pastor at Mount Tabor, and he says, I'm just too old for this. I don't want to get involved. But he was a wonderful man. He just says, I'm just not up to this anymore. But then I saw Pastor Hopkins, and he was very good. He listened to me. He sat down and listened to me. And then at one point we were talking about something, and he just seemed to hop out of the chair. And he said, I like this,
Nice.
And so he said, okay, I'm behind you. And And then it just went on pastor after pastor after pastor.
What have you learned about Oakland in your time running for mayor that you either didn't know before or didn't expect to see?
I guess what I've learned about that I didn't know and didn't expect was the what's going on in City Hall. I mean, it's just this dysfunctional family.
Well said.
I was trying to think of the word dysfunctional, but it just seems crazy. I don't know what they're doing, and I don't know what they're thinking about.
Well, how would that change if you were mayor?
Well, some people said, well, why don't you start running for city council?
Yeah.
The only way I think you could change it is being mayor.
Why?
You have a strong mayor system. And I think that you, as a mayor, you can go to the citizens a lot and talk and try and get them behind the plan. And I think the citizens are ready for a change.
True.
I mean, I think
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
everybody I've talked to wants a change on every level.
If you had to describe your candidacy, if you had to give a slogan, what would that be?
A slogan. Well, restoring the city to the people. I think that the people are interested now more in ideas than a politician that wants to come in and just buy the office.
Right.
I think there's real skepticism about a career politician coming in and taking the office. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was listening. What, or I should say, how are things going? Like events, fundraising? Are you running a low budget campaign? You know, what website? What?
No, purposely right now we're running a very low budget campaign because I want to recruit people on ideas
Sure.
rather than money. And if I can't make those ideas get across, then the money is not going to matter, and I'm not going to be around later on. We already have commitments for money, fairly large commitments, but we actually haven't taken the money. We're going to file, I think, a Form 460 pretty soon, and people are going to see that our total expenditures up until now are $45.
Okay, now shifting gears to the obvious question of the day for a lot of people, sports. What do you want to do with the A's? What should we do in your view?
With the A's, well, I think first of all it depends on what happens with the league, what the league decides. But I'd love to have the A's come back to Oakland, and I'd actually like to see if we can get a stadium down in the Jack London Square area. I think it would be wonderful. I think the city would really benefit from it in many ways, not only financially, but I think they benefit from it in just a morale sense.
Right. Now, what do you think? What about crime? I mean, we talked, but there have been, for example, there's a lot of thefts, break-ins, burglaries, and I have the sense sometimes the neighbors don't talk to or help out each other here. There's not this. Now, if I'm wrong, let me know. This is your view.
Right.
But what do we do about that? Or am I wrong?
No. I think you're right. Well, first of all, I am absolutely convinced that crime is related to economics. If you don't have a job, you've got to resort to other things.
Right.
And I think down in the inner city, they've got an underground economy. They live on, they get by the best way they can. But I think crime, the best way to solve crime is through economic development.
Agreed. Absolutely agree.
When you have a job, it changes everything. You have a sense of worth and a sense of value, and you start to look at other people with a sense of worth and value. I know that the police, I hear policemen say, well, they killed each other for over $10 down there. Mm-hmm. That's how important $10 is down there.
Right.
And if you live like that year after year, decade after decade, $10 is a big deal.
Sure is. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. What would you say to anyone asking you how you would fix the Oakland budget problem? You mentioned the labor, but I mean taxes.
I actually think that there's enough adequate taxes being paid right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the taxes have been chasing the compensation.
Right.
And the compensation is so, crazy that, people, it's, there's this expression that, if you put frogs in a pond and just slowly turn up the heat, they won't get out. They'll just stay there until the water boils.
Oh.
And it's almost like we're frogs in a pond. Mm-hmm. We've just let it go on and on and on. But now we're at the point where it can't go on anymore. There's nowhere, we can't cut our way out of it.
Right.
We can't borrow our way out of it. And
Right.
we can't tax our way out of it. Mm-hmm. We've got to adjust the budget. And that means hard negotiation.
And would you say that you are a mayor of, or would be mayor of more North Oakland, East Oakland, West Oakland? What area of Oakland do you consider yours?
I really consider all Oakland mine. I mean, I do have and there's a pastor that's going to get mad at me for this. Because he says, don't keep saying West Oakland, but I have a fondness for West Oakland.
Yeah.
And
it is West Oakland. Why does he keep saying don't? What does he want you to say?
Well, he's out in East Oakland.
Oh,
so
interesting.
Concerned about East Oakland.
Interesting. How can people get behind your campaign if they want to contact you? What do they do?
Well, the best way is to go to the website.
Okay.
Which
is?
Harland, the number 4, mayor. And the reason being is there's a wealth of information there. So that's the first way to get behind the campaign, is to become informed, so that you can inform others. I was standing in a food line one day about 4 months ago, talking to a man, and he was saying to me, well, we were talking about jobs, and he says, I can't get a job because I'm a felon. And then he said, and I can't vote for you because I'm a felon. But then he said, what I can do is I can get my relatives and friends, and I'll get you at least 5 votes.
Right.
And to me, he became like a super voter. Even though he'd lost his right to vote, he was going to convince 5 other people to vote for me. But I think the most important thing is to just inform yourself so you can inform others, and so people will be able to pick the right person in November.
Greg, thank you.
Thank you, Zenny.
Okay. Appreciate it. Okay.